know there is good inside you.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Off the Cuff, the unscripted series where I will be giving my thoughts about recent movies, TV shows, or really anything entertainment related that's on my mind. And for today's episode, I just wanted to give you my thoughts about the movie I just got out of, Brightburn. I went into this Lex Luthor propaganda film, James Gunn produced film, really wanting to like it. You know, I love the Marvel Cinematic Universe and those types of movies. I mean, obviously. But sometimes you just need something a little bit different in that genre. Logan was a good example of that, giving us a little bit more serious, darker tale of a popular comic book hero. And Deadpool was another one that just kind of shook things up a little bit, being violent and crass and just being, quite honestly, just being Deadpool.
Excuse me.
And those are great examples of comic book movies made for adults. And I was hoping for Brightburn to be another one like that. And I in a way, it succeeded. You know, I'm not going to say it was a bad movie or a disappointment, because it wasn't. I did enjoy the movie for the most part, but there are certainly some flaws within it. The broad strokes of the story being a couple in Kansas, in the middle of nowhere, Brightburn County, Kansas, is having trouble conceiving when a space pod crashes to the ground near them, and they go to find a baby boy just by himself in this pod. And so they do what any normal person would do, I guess, and raise him as their own, and hide away the space pod and don't tell him the truth. And so more or less, this is the Superman origin story, just instead of Clark Kent, it's Brandon Byers. And so it's what it would be like if things in Superman or in Clark Kent's youth went a little bit differently. Because he wasn't really, Brandon wasn't born evil. I do like how they handled certain aspects of that in the film. He isn't born an evil kid. He isn't this maniacal or vengeful person. It's just, he's a normal 12-year-old boy who has no idea who he really is. And then one day the spaceship he landed in begins calling to him in this alien language. And it sort of starts to mess with his head a little bit. And he's also going through puberty, and around that time he starts having a bit of a crush on a girl. And once he discovers he has these superpowers, he tries to use them to show this girl his affection. But instead of working out how he hoped, it scares the shit out of her. And that is sort of the beginning of his turn. When things just aren't going the way he hopes. I mean, he's an immature 12-year-old kid. He doesn't really know any better. These are all new feelings. I mean, he's an alien. Nobody knows what he's going through but him. And so I kind of like how they did that in his slow turn to be this darker force. One criticism I would have, though, is the fairly low on-screen body count. This was marketed very much as a horror movie, and in a way it is. I mean, it certainly has its horror aspects. It has a couple of gruesome and gory moments, but not a whole lot. A couple of deaths happen off-screen or happen very quickly, and we get a few of them that they show us that are pretty messed up. But I kind of expected more. I get they're in the middle of nowhere in Kansas, but I just felt a little hamstrung maybe by a lower budget. I honestly don't know. But I did think, what they did well with what they had. This was a solid effort. One I did enjoy watching it. It just felt like it didn't have quite enough behind it to be a modern classic or anything like that. I mean, I'm sure it'll earn itself a cult following at some point. In the end, though, this was an entertaining but too small of a film. I just wish the scope was a little bit bigger. It didn't have to be huge. You didn't have to split the world in half or anything like that, but just something a little bit bigger than tormenting a few people and killing a few people. I expected just more than what we got. The horror elements weren't really all that scary. There were a couple of creepy moments. There were a couple of jump scares, which I don't really count. And that was about it. And so it just didn't quite put enough behind it, to really be great. So, if you're a fan of the superhero genre, you might consider checking it out. And especially if you want to see something a little bit different, something that kind of subverts the expectations of what we're all used to for all these kinds of superhero movies. So, consider checking it out. Maybe check it out in the theater, maybe give it a rent. But if you're a fan of superhero movies, you'll likely get some kind of enjoyment out of watching this darker tale about what would happen if Superman turned to the dark side. Well, that'll do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and be sure to keep an eye out for more in the future. And as always, you can visit us at HappyDragonPictures.com and follow us on Facebook to stay up to date with all of our releases. And as a reminder, this series will be a Patreon exclusive in the near future, so be sure to visit us on Patreon and consider donating to support us. Well, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.